Hello and welcome to our program. Washington is repeatedly urging Pyongyang to make a big deal where the regime completely denuclearizes in exchange for a full removal of sanctions. How is Kim reacting to Washington's pressure and engagement approach? Here is what we have for you today.
On this week's A Road to Peace, we discuss Washington's pressure campaign urging Pyongyang to take the so-called big deal on denuclearization. We also take a look at North Korean TV coverage featuring the Supreme People's Assembly elections. Lastly, we meet the Hulabalu choir comprised of young North Korean defectors as they share how music has helped them boost their self-confidence.
For today's discussion, we're joined by Dr. Bong Young-shik of the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies. Thank you for joining our show today.
Very pleased to be here.
So U.S. Special Representative for North Korea, Stephen Biegun, put out an all-or-nothing approach to North Korea's denuclearization. And at the Carnegie Nuclear Conference, he made it clear that U.S. is not going to accept a partial approach to denuclearization. What do you make of this, and where do you think the bilateral talks are headed from here?
Well, the overriding opinion in Washington, both the White House and the Congress, was that United States would be better off without any deal at all than making a bad deal that will cut Washington in a very difficult situation. So I wouldn't say that making no deal with Chairman Kim Jong-un of North Korea was the default strategy for President Trump in Hanoi summit meeting. But it was clear that Trump administration was really serious about getting the deal that is acceptable and satisfactory to the White House and the Congress at the Hanoi summit meeting. And walking away without any bad deal was one of the default options in preparation for the Hanoi summit meeting. It was really surprising revelation by Mr. Stephen Biegun. Not really all or nothing, but all in one. All-in-one approach was consensus in the Trump administration throughout the years in engaging with Kim Jong-un leadership of North Korea. So step-by-step approach preferred by North Korea was never an acceptable option for the Trump administration.
So he did say that denuclearization talks are still ongoing right now. But then again, he did say that the two sides are struggling to negotiate because, according to Biegun, they have some differences in the definition of the Yongbyon nuclear complex. So can you tell us what exactly those definitions are and how they're different, as well as their impact on the nuclear talks?
There was one of the points that actually led to the breakup in the Hanoi summit meeting between Trump and Kim Jong-un. It's because both sides were miles apart in defining the offer made by Kim Jong-un in exchange for the U.S. agreement to lift 5 major economic sanctions made by the United Nations Security Council. So what is the definition of the Yongbyon nuclear site? Well, Yongbyon nuclear facility itself is a huge facility which is as big as 3 square kilometers. It has over 390 buildings inside the site. What North Korea offered at the Hanoi summit meeting is the dismantlement of the Yongbyon nuclear facilities, which imply the dismantlement of the key facilities inside the Yongbyon complex. But what the United States wanted in terms of the dismantlement of the Yongbyon nuclear complex was far bigger than destruction of those facilities inside the Yongbyon complex defined by North Korean government itself. Mr. John Bolton challenged Mr. Kim Jong-un and his staff members about the secret enrichment site, which can be regarded as a part of the Yongbyon administrative district, but outside the Yongbyon nuclear facility defined by the North Korean government. So that was one of the breaking points between the United States and North Korea at the Hanoi summit meeting.
And do you think they will be able to find a middle ground in the future negotiations on this?
I think it is possible, but what is critical for both sides to come up with an agreement is to, settle their asking prices in the middle point, because it is not the default position of the Trump administration not to accept any offer made by North Korea. But Trump administration only thought that the price was too high for the United States to pay. It was too high as a price for Trump administration to pay for the exchange of sanction relief, the 5 major United Nations Security Council resolutions for the dismantlement of the Yongbyon nuclear complex defined by North Koreans, not by Americans.
Right, and after walking away from the Hanoi summit, President Trump is already hinting at the possibility of a third North Korea-U.S. summit, and so did his top officials. But it's almost as if he's kind of in a rush here. And why is that, and what are your thoughts on this?
He wants to maintain the momentum for dialogue and negotiations between United States and North Korea so that, as he stated many times before, and reiterated by Mr. Stephen Biegun and others in his government, that his goal remained the same. His goal is to have fully verified and final denuclearization of North Korea before the end of his first term as the President of the United States. So we are now looking at the window of less than 2 years to achieve that very ambitious goal by the Trump administration. So it is in the cards for President Trump to have another summit meeting with Mr. Kim Jong-un if it is necessary. But again, he has to see the guarantee made by North Korea that he's going to get the type of denuclearization of North Korea that he finds acceptable.
There are also reports indicating that North Korea may be resuming its nuclear and missile activities, and that must be troubling news for Trump because he's been pointing to the absence of those activities and the resumption of the missile testings as part of his key achievements as president. What are your thoughts on this, and can you help us look into his mind?
Mr. Trump only said that he would be very disappointed if North Korea are going to resume the missile test and restore the Dongchangri missile engine site. But he's in the kind of a wait-and-see mode because it is not verified yet. North Koreans are really determined to resume the missile test. So we need to just wait and see until North Koreans will make the decisive move in either direction. But it's going to be very self-destructive to the Kim Jong-un leadership in North Korea if it is going to resume the missile test in Dongchangri for 2 main reasons. One, the United Nations Security Council resolutions clearly define that North Korea is prohibited from any launch, whether it's a civilian satellite test or missile launch for military purposes. It doesn't really matter in its definition of prohibition of any missile test or launch by North Korea according to the United Nations Security Council resolutions. So North Koreans may try to justify the resumption of test in terms of civilian activities. But even though it might be a civilian activity, but it doesn't really matter in its definition of the United Nations Security Council resolutions on North Korea. Second, if North Korea is going to resume any activities in Dongchangri, then it will deny North Korea's own justification or its own definition of denuclearization, because the destruction of the missile test facility in Dongchangri was one of the main concessions made by North Korea for demonstration of its clear commitment to denuclearization. But if North Korea is going to quickly restore the missile engine facility in Dongchangri and resume any launching activities, then the international society has no choice but to suspect whether Kim Jong-un leadership is truly committed to the kind of denuclearization that the world finds acceptable and legitimate. So even if the South Korean government has been quite busy in trying to persuade the rest of the world that we have to take into consideration that Kim Jong-un leadership is truly committed to denuclearization, the complete and verifiable denuclearization, if the rest of the world will provide North Korea with enough incentives South Korean government's own argument will be greatly weakened if North Korea is going to resume activities in Dongchangli.
A very minuscule solution to this economic problem in North Korea could be what President Moon Jae-in is trying to pursue, the resumption of the Kaesong Industrial Complex and the Mount Kumgangsan tours. But this isn't really in line with the U.S. position right now. So where do you see the InterKorean relations heading from here?
It's critically up to the decision by the Moon Jae-in government of South Korea about the reopening of Kaesong Industrial Complex and the Mount Kumgang tour programs. Theoretically speaking, South Korean government can, make the decision independently, but the cost will be extremely high because those decisions would be regarded as a clear violation of the existing sanction regime, led by the United States and United Nations Security Council. And South Korean government will be cornered without any good arguments to justify its decision. Because then the rest of the world will question South Korean government's decision and rationale with the question, well, South Korea and Japan are within the range of the nuclear missile attacks from North Korea, as well as missile attacks carrying other kinds of the weapons of mass destruction, like chemical and biological weapons. And the Moon Jae-in government made it clear with the President Moon Jae-in's delivery of speech in the United Nations General Assembly meeting that the reason why North Korea came to the negotiation table was thanks to very resolute response by the international society, including the United Nations Security Council, to penalize North Korea for its nuclear and missile tests. Then resumption of the Kaesong Industrial Complex and Mount Kumgang tour programs would be in transgression with the previous position held by the Moon Jae-in government of South Korea. And another point is that, opening of the Kaesong and Mount Kumgang would help North Korean economy as an immediate relief, but they would not be enough to really turn around the national economy of North Korea in a fundamental way.
So it really does depend on whether the two sides reach a big deal or no deal at all. Well, we'll be keeping a close watch on that. Now, North Koreans went to the polls on March 10th to elect members of the Supreme People's Assembly. Kim also cast his ballot. Here's a clip from North Korea's KCTV.
우리 당과 국가 군대의 최고領導자 김정은 동지께서 최고인민회의 대의원 선거에 참가하셨습니다. 오전 11시 최고領導자 김정은 동지께서 김제공업종합대학에 꾸려진 선거장에 도착하셨습니다. 대학 교직원 학생들은 경의하는 최고領導자 동지께 최대의 영광과 가장 뜨거운 인사를 올리며 열광적으로 환영했습니다. 경의하는 최고領導자 동지께서는 최고인민회의 대의원 선거를 위한 선거표를 받으시고 최고인민회의 대의원 후보자인 홍서훈 동지에게 투표하셨습니다. 앞으로 일을 더 잘하기 바란다고 뜨겁게 고무 격려해 주셨습니다. 경의하는 최고領導자 동지께서 선거장에서 나오시자 또다시 폭풍 같은 만세 환호성이 하늘 땅을 진감했습니다.
Dr. Bong, what do you make of the general results of this election?
It will be a good indication of future direction of North Korean government in terms of consolidating the legitimacy and support for the Kim Jong-un leadership, as well as the new economic policies. As we have discussed that the North Korean economy is in serious conditions. So new initiatives and the very concrete roadmap are indeed very necessary for the Kim Jong-un leadership to maintain his power position in domestic politics. North Korea is not really a typical liberal democratic political system. We all know about that. But this government organization, the Supreme People's Assembly, is not just a simple rubber stamp legislative body because it is an assembly of North Korean people representing the general desires and needs of the population. So in that regard, that it will be very indicative of what kind of policy will be chosen by the Kim Jong-un leadership for another 5 years. Because the Supreme People's Assembly election is held every 5 years. And when it was held, after he inaugurated his term as the Supreme Leader of North Korea in 2011, the Assembly election held in 2014 was a clear sign that he wanted to get his own people. He wanted a generational change within the government of North Korea. And about 55% of the new members joined the People's Supreme Assembly in 2014 election. And we would expect about the same degree of the generational change and personal change will be made in this election.
But what do you also make of Kim Jong-un not having participated in this set of elections?
That's a very interesting move by Kim Jong-un. I think one reason is that he wants to at least show that he's not a typical dictator. He has a genuine desire and interest in making North Korean people more prosperous and well taken care of by the government. North Korean leadership has maintained the same propaganda since its foundation that the political party, the nation, has to be the mother for the common people in North Korea, the bosom that will take care of innocent people in North Korea. I think that is the reason why he wanted to kind of separate himself from the legislative body of the government. And the second reason is that he may want to relieve his burden and of the responsibility for the failing economy. One interesting new propaganda emphasized by the media organ of North Korean government these days is to emphasize self-reliance for ordinary people in North Korea. The propaganda emphasizes that North Korean people cannot expect everything to be made right by the supreme leadership. So infallibility of supreme leadership has been somewhat compromised by the North Korean media, meaning that when things are not going right, you can't really criticize the supreme leadership. You cannot blame the supreme leadership for everything that is going bad. So it is kind of a proactive setup for Kim Jong-un leadership to shirk off the domestic criticism for no agreement made in Hanoi summit meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump.
I see. Well, we're going to move on to another topic now. It's not easy settling in a new environment, especially when you're young. There's an extracurricular activity in South Korea that's helping young North Korean defectors build their confidence. Here's more on the story.
A musical performance by a youth choir stole the spotlight at a recent award ceremony in Seoul. The choir, comprised of young North Korean defectors, took the stage with singers with a choral rendition of You Raise Me Up. This is an alternative school in Seocheogu, Seoul. Students begin to gather in the auditorium when classes are over.
언제 합창을 할지 몰라서 항상 준비하는 거예요.
합창 연습하면 한 1시간 정도 하는 것 같아요. 많이 하면 2시간.
Every Thursday, during the Hullabaloo Choir's weekly practice session, this place is filled with joyful laughter and melodious harmonies. The choir was formed 5 years ago, with students at this school dedicated to North Korean defectors. Most of them have lost their parents while escaping from the north, or are being raised by a single mother.
북한에서 넘어온 친구들도 있고요. 어머니들이 탈북하셔서 그 중국에서 원하지 않는 결혼을 하고 태어난 자녀들, 그러니까 중국에 태어난 자녀들이 엄마를 쫓아서 한국에 온 친구들. 대부분이 이제 탈북한 친구들이 한 4분의 1 정도, 거의 한 3분은 우리 북한에서 온, 중국에서 온 친구들이 대부분 많아요.
The children came to this school after struggling with cultural differences and language barriers at South Korean schools, which left them frustrated and feeling less confident. Helping them restore self-confidence and positivity was more important than learning the South Korean language. A choir was one way to do it.
그 아이들이 대부분 이제 오는 과정에 상처를 받았잖아요. 또 열등감도 있고 또 우리 사회에서 따라갈 수 있는 그런 환경이 안 되고 또 지원도 없고 이러다 보니까 가장 시급한 거는 이들이 이제 열등감과 마음에 있는 상처 이런 것을 치료해 줘야 되는데 거기에 이제 집중적으로 우선순위로 이들의 깨어진 마음을 고쳐주는 걸 우선순위로 했습니다.
At today's practice, the choir members are given a chance to show off their skills in front of their peers. They give their best in a healthy competition to outshine others. Choir activities have brought positive change in the children's lives.
여러 가지 노래를 하면서 어두웠던 그런 얼굴들도 그렇고 마음들도 그런 표현을 통해서 좀 밝아지는 그런 모습들을 볼 수 있거든요. 그래서 합창을 통해서 아이들이 좀 밝아지는 모습, 좀 치유되는 모습이 좀 있었던 것 같아요.
Haeun was a shy girl who always felt nervous about standing in front of others. But singing in the choir has made her discover her passion and gift in music. She now dreams of becoming a singer.
너무 예뻐. 합창 연습을 하다 보면은 되게 자신감도 생기고 제가 그때 솔로 역할을 한번 맡은 적이 있는데 너무 높은 음이어가지고 못할 것 같더라고요. 그래서 계속 포기했는데 선생님들이 용기를 줘가지고 아 그래 그냥 지르자 하고 내 옆엔 아무도 없다 하면서 질렀는데 아 우리가 열심히 연습한 만큼 보람을 느낀다는 그런 점을 알게 됐고요.
The choir and the inspiring stories of its members soon made the news, and they were given a chance to perform at various events. The students say the most memorable one was a 2016 performance at the presidential office of 청와대. The young North Korean defectors sang a song wishing for a unified Korea, touching the hearts of many.
이제 청와대 감히 이제 우리가 이제 가볼 수도 없고 그런 곳이었는데 가서 또 휴전선에서 그 만든 그 피아노를 가지고 그거로 이제 우리의 소원을 통일을 부르게 됐어서 그때 저한테도 굉장히 큰 의미가 있었던 무대였던 것 같아요.
Music has given the isolated and neglected children the courage and confidence to step into the outside world.
저는 애들한테 그렇게 말하죠. 평생 이제 한국에서 살면서 이런 무대, 이런 곳 두 번 다시 못 만날 거다. 지금 어떻게 해서든 어떤 기회가 왔든 나한테 무슨 기회가 왔고 어떤 환경에 있든지 일단 최선을 다하고 잡아보자. 그랬을 때 그게 정말 후회 없이 했을 때 나중에 엄청 뿌듯하게 삶에서 큰 도움이 될 거다. 이렇게 말을 하고 있거든요.
제 꿈을 키워주는 그런 합창단인 것 같아요. 자신감을 얻게 해주고 이제 용기를 주고 이제 제 꿈을 우리의 꿈을 이제 만들어주는 그런 합창단인 것 같아요.
The synchronized voices of defector children, who are the legacy of Korea's painful past, are sending a message of hope and peace to people around the world.
I think it was great to see their bright faces. Dr. Bong, what did you make of this?
Well, watching such a video clip always make me have very mixed emotions toward the North Korean defectors and especially those young members. Now we have around 30,000 North Korean defectors inside South Korea, but we also have a similar number of North Korean defectors inside China. And I learned from the testimony of the North Korean defectors that most of them are in horrendous situations, in clear violations of the basic human rights, because first of all, they are not recognized as political refugees by Chinese government. So they do not have any access to the basic benefits provided by the Chinese government. The children cannot really go to school. So it'll be not just a very important and unfortunate case for North Koreans from the point of human rights violations, but also growing issue in the context of the domestic politics for the Chinese government in near future.
I really do hope that things will get better for these North Korean defectors, not just in Korea, but as you mentioned, outside Korea.
Right.
Well, Dr. Bong, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
You're welcome.
Kim has made it clear that developing his country's economy and improving the people's lives are his top priorities. We're left to wonder what choice he will make in response to growing calls from Washington. This is all we have for you today. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching.